Welcome everyone to the Lincoln City Council meeting of September 28th, 2020. Welcome everybody to the Lincoln City Council meeting of September 28th, year 2020. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that there's a copy of the Opens Meetings Act, which is posted in the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business for the City Council meeting is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all the public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Monday, which is tonight, immediately prior to the adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor plan for any future agenda. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
First item of business is a few announcements. Due to Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, the City Council will not meet on Monday, October 12, 2020. Also, limited seating is available in the council chambers, or you may wait in the Bill Luxford studio or in the hallway until your item is called. You can then enter the council chambers and come to the podium. After you are finished speaking on your item, you can exit the chambers through the door to your immediate left. Our first items on our agenda is sections 1 and 2, reports of city officers and petitions and communications.
Anybody wishing to come forward?
Yeah, good afternoon, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. I'm here today to introduce two members of, or two candidates for two of our advisory councils. Katie Graff is a candidate for our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and Chris Stokes is a candidate for our Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council. A little bit about both these individuals. Katie is currently a project coordinator at the Madonna Foundation. She's a past member of the Friends of the Pioneers Park Nature Center, and she's a current board member of the Friends of Wilderness Park. Chris Stokes is an active colonel in the U.S. Air Force Reserve. He's been in that capacity for 26 years. He's a commercial airline pilot. He's a businessman with business interests in automobile service, real estate, and in manufacturing. And we're very pleased to have both these individuals have interest in serving the community in this fashion. And I'll ask them to come forward and introduce themselves. Come on up.
Please come on up. Thank you both for agreeing to volunteer. Really appreciate it. We'll let Katie go first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the advisory board.
Hi.
Hi.
I grew up in Lincoln. I've probably visited more of the parks than almost anyone in the room, I bet, because I make a point of it. I have dogs. I grew up with horses. I'm a biker. I'm a walker. And I have a keen interest in making sure that open spaces and outdoor spaces are available for Lincoln residents, and to make sure that those places are welcoming and kept and maintained and beautiful for our generation and the generations after us.
Thank you. And probably you like it that we can walk our hound dogs through.
That's exactly right. Every day. Roberts Park.
Uh-huh. Thank you for wanting to serve. Yes, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Stokes, 34 years in Lincoln, also 34 years in the military as the Air Force reservist. But I'm very excited to be asked to be on the the committee for the Veterans Memorial Garden. My main goals personally are to get the word out and be kind of a marketing arm, if you will, and also as a father of 7 children and 5 at Sheridan Elementary, which are just blocks away, I want to really focus on getting kids exposed to this gem through the certainly the local schools in the general vicinity and throughout LPS.
Well, thank you. Do we have any questions for our very, very well qualified applicants? Yes, Councilperson Ward.
No questions, just a comment, and thanks to both of you for coming forward and volunteering your time, and just want to especially thank Ms. Katie Graff. I've known her a long time in our community, and we couldn't be more fortunate, and I'm sure we are with you, Mr. Stokes, as well, but I know that the Graff family is very community-minded, and I know Councilman McGinnis knows your family as well, but Katie, especially thank you for stepping forward and agreeing to serve. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Well, thank you again, both of you, very much. Thank you for coming down tonight, and you got a lot of fun work ahead of you.
All right,
So
thank you.
enjoy it. Who else would like to come forward to speak on any of the items in our consent agenda?
Hello, I'm Brandon Kaufman, Finance Director for the city. My other hat is Treasurer for the West Haymarket JPA, which has a lot of interaction with Pinnacle Bank Arena. So I'm here tonight to introduce you to Connie Edmond. She's works with WRL CPA. She's a managing partner for there. Mayor's really excited about appointing her to the Pinnacle Bank Advisory Board. And I really look forward to her financial acumen joining the board, especially in a difficult time for this industry. So with that, I'd like to invite Connie up for any comments or questions you might have.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the nomination. My name is Connie Edmond, and I'm excited to be able to serve the city in this capacity. I have a love for numbers and finance and things like that, and I think the Pinnacle Bank Arena is something that really serves this city, and I'm looking forward to adding and contributing to its success and helping it to survive post-COVID.
Well, thank you, Connie, for wanting to serve and help our city. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any comments for Connie at this point? No. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
you.
for coming down. Anybody else like to come forward on any of the items here on our consent agenda tonight? Okay. Seeing none, I believe we can move on.
We may now vote on these items. Item 1A, appointing Katie D. Graff to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term to expire April 28, 2023, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any comments? Please call a roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold, Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1B, appointing Christopher Stokes to the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Committee for a term to expire November 1st, 2022, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments, questions? Please call a roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1C, appointing Connie Edmond to the Pinnacle Bank Arena Advisory Committee for a term to expire April 15, 2026, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1D, approving an interlocal agreement between the city and York County to define the mutual and separate responsibilities of each in the operation, management, support, monitoring, and evaluation of the York County Senior Services Program, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any comments? Please call a roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1E is approving a contract between the city and Union Bank and Trust Company for lockbox services for a 4-year term for a sum not to exceed $176,000 pursuant to bid number 20-165, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second by Councilperson Washington. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. 1F, approving a contract between the city and Seeds of Life Nursery and Landscaping, Inc. for 2020 Fall Surety Tree Projects for a 2-year term for a sum not to exceed $29,808 pursuant to bid number 20-175, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second by Councilperson Christensen. Comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1G, approving a contract between the city and Seeds of Life Nursery and Landscaping, Inc. for 2020 West O Streetscapes Trees for a 2-year term for a sum not to exceed $34,389 pursuant to bid number 20-183, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 2A is introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. We can now move on to Section 4, or public hearing liquor resolutions. Just an announcement, item 4A and 4B, the application of Pillar at Home, Inc. was withdrawn by the applicant. So we'll move on to item 4C, application of O and HSP LLC, doing business as Ollie and Hobbs Craft Kitchen for a Class C liquor license at 2940 Pine Lake Road, Suite A, and the related manager application of Jason T. Kerr for Ollie and Hobbs located at 2940 Pine Lake Road.
Would the manager or applicant like to come forward?
You raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jason Kuhr, Jasonkuhr, 2132 South 181st Circle in Omaha. And that's my partner, Tyler. So we're here to answer any questions for the council.
Okay, any questions for this applicant? Yes, Ms. Washington.
Can you tell us a little bit about your business and when you will be open?
Well, Ollie and Hobbs itself, we opened in Omaha. It'll be 4 years in November that this concept's been open. It's just a casual American family-style restaurant. If the contractor can finish up, hopefully, mid to late October, but it's not going as smoothly as we would like, but, we would guess probably late October right now. So about a month.
And your location is in South Point Mall, correct?
Yep, South Point Pavilions.
Then I just have one other question.
Yes.
Your application said that you'd come back for exterior dining or an exterior extension of your liquor license?
Correct.
Do you have a time frame for that? Would you wait until the spring?
Yeah, it's just, given the time we're opening now, we didn't want to waste the time and money and slow down the process by doing the patio now. So it'll come up in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Would you want to say anything? Okay. Well, good. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
down. Anybody else like to come forward on this application? And either in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, let's move on.
Item 4E is application of Swig LLC doing business as 9 South Char Grill to temporarily expand its Class IK and L liquor license to temporarily add an addition outdoor area measuring 16 feet by 19 feet, 35 feet at 844 South Street.
The applicant here?
They're not here this evening. They
Okay.
let us know ahead of time, though.
Okay.
So.
Anybody have any questions or comments for anybody else?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of items 4C, D, and E.
Second.
I think I'd like to just add one thing about the last application.
Been moved and seconded. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we're in a conversation point. I just wanted to say that during the Internal Liquor Control Board meeting, we did talk about the fact this applicant would not be here today. And even though the dine out application was used, the actual authority that this is being presented is under a new authority, LB 1056, something that just was approved by the legislature.
Okay. So we have another law to figure out.
I think that our attorney, Tanya Peters, has already figured that out for
Good.
us.
Any other comments, questions over this? We got a motion to approve these 3 items? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward, Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Our next section on our agenda is Section 5, Public Hearing Resolutions. Item 5A is approving Amendment Number 4 to the Annexation Agreement for Rokuby Road, coalition between the city and members of Rokuby Road Coalition to accelerate the construction of the Rokuby Road paving improvements from Carpathian Way and South 84th Street, and to reflect the adjustments to the obligations of the parties.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Danae Kalkowski and Mike Eckert's with me here today, too. We're appearing tonight on behalf of the Rokuby Road Coalition, which includes over 10 different property owners representing about 726 acres when we originally started this. So I've just put up there a map for you just to orient you to the area that we're talking about. We have South 70th Street on the west, 84th in the middle, and then 98th would be clear over there. The main arterial roadway running through the development would be Rokuby Road. So there's a little bit of history with this site. 2006, Mike's office and ours came in with this group of property owners, and we worked on a development agreement. At that time, there was an opportunity to work with the city to do some oversizing of some sewer lines, which would allow not only this area, but some additional area that wouldn't have otherwise been served by sewer to be served. And so it created a nice area down here in southeast Lincoln for development. That just addressed the sewer. So back in 2015, we came in with the first phase of the annexation agreement. And at that time, we started talking about Rokuby Road, which was a gravel roadway all the way from 70th clear over to 98th Street at that time, and the first phase annexation, and kind of master planned the roads and the waters. At that time, we talked about doing Rokuby Road as, I think, a ruts section. But really, before it was built, we came in with another amendment to the annexation agreement a couple years later. At that time, City asked us to amend the section of Rokuby Road to be more urban in nature. Included some roundabouts from at 70th, one in the middle there, and then the intersection at 84th Street. At that time, we talked about a phased process for construction of Rokuby Road, and that would do a lot with how many impact fees and how much development was occurring out here. The entire roadway now from 70th Street to 84th Street has been graded. And it's actually been paved and constructed through really kind of the middle here. The rest of the roadway section, which I have in red, is the part that we're talking about today in the amendment to the annexation agreement. That is a section of gravel roadway that's sitting in the midst of paved roads all around. You might recall too then the section of Rokuby Road from 84th Street to the east was paved as part of the LES when they built their site out there. So right now, the amendment that we have before you today is really to address kind of that missing section of Rokuby Road. Amendment number 4 to the Rokuby Road annexation agreement addresses trying to get this roadway section built sooner. And so what we're doing is taking a compilation of impact fees, some of the quarter-cent sales tax money, and developer contribution so that this roadway can be designed in this fiscal year and constructed in the next. So it's really just a continuation of work by the city and the developer to try and keep things moving out here. There's been tremendous growth and homes built out here. We've got the new school site now, high school site, and an elementary school site out here. So just tons of tremendous potential growth. And so just getting this last little section of roadway paved to urban standards to sort of complete the network out here is important and will be a big asset for the entire area. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. So would Mr. Eckert, if you have some tough ones.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Kakowski? Yes, Councilwoman Schob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Kakowski, I was listening to you talk about the funding sources, and
Yes.
one of the ones you mentioned was the quarter-cent sales tax.
Yes.
And it had a provision earmarking new development. So this is one of the first times we get to publicly talk about use of the money, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else to, I'm sorry, I said more than, it wasn't really a question, was it? It was more of a.
Well, no, I think really it is, it's an example. This is probably, Mike and I have come through with sort of multiple amendments to these annexation agreements, and this is just probably the last one to bring through here, but we've really been able to take that quarter-cent sales tax and leverage that with developer funds and impact fees to really move forward a lot of sections of roadway that will help keep the development going in our community in these new growth areas. So, I mean, we definitely have had a gap as we've worked on these annexation agreements over the last several years, and the dollars from this sales tax funding has gone a long ways to helping us fill some of those gaps and keep some of these projects going in a timely manner. So this is just one example.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yep.
Thanks for saying it for me much
welcome.
better than I would have.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I do have a couple.
Okay.
And couple is interesting, the trigger that said any member of the coalition could trigger this construction if they want to.
I think the language used to read, Richard, when we had it in the sections, you could trigger it if you wanted to build it before the city would have sufficient impact fees collected, and then you would have to fund it and wait to get paid back. So the language in there now that's talking about trigger would just be remaining improvements, because under the amendment right now, the city is committed to building it within this time frame, designing it this year, building it next year, utilizing the impact fees that are available, the sales tax funding, and developer contribution if we have a lag between, when the need for the funding and when it shows up. I think the language that's still in there about triggering is really, we still have some intersection improvements down on the section that was built for LES. There still will need to be right and left turn lanes at a couple intersections on Rokuby Road from 84th to 98th Street. And the developers have the right to trigger those when they're ready to develop. And again, I think some of them are reimbursable from impact fees.
Okay. And then it talked about the estimated costs for the construction, right? And there's a number out there currently. They're putting one in the document.
Right.
So that the 1.1, I believe. And it says that if the numbers come in higher, then the developer or the city could reject the bid or have it rebid or have it redesigned to alternate design standards.
Right, and I think the point there is we don't want to get in a situation where we've committed everybody, but yet we've talked about what funding sources we have available, and if our bids come in too high and we don't have the adequate funds to pay for it, then we need to talk about, do we need to delay, do we need to look at trying to cut some costs, because we've got our pot of money put together based upon our estimate today.
And as I understand it, we being the city council, will still need to approve the sales tax funding for this project?
Yes, it would be approved like you're approving all the rest of the funding for annually for the sales tax
Part of the
projects.
CIP or through that
Right,
project?
and the funding for this would come over a 3-year period, so we don't get all the funding at one time. It would come over a 3-year period.
There for a while, I was hoping it, because it said 30 days after somebody triggers it, that the city would give a cost figure for that deal, but it's just an estimated. I was hoping
Yes.
our engineering group would be able to give you an exact cost in 30 days, but I don't think that will happen. Okay, Any other comments or thoughts? Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, I believe don't need a rebuttal at this point. We will move on.
Item 5B is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for September 1st through 15th, 2020.
Would anybody like to come forward on this item? Seeing none, should we move on to voting?
Item 5A is approving amendment number 4 to the annexation agreement for the Rokuby Road Coalition between the city and members of the Rokuby Road Coalition to accelerate the construction of the Rokuby Road paving improvements from Carpathian Way to South 84th Street and to reflect the adjustments to the obligations of the parties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilman Christensen. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5B is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for September 1st through the 15th, 2020, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
So, that's the end of the public hearing.
We can move on to Section 6, our ordinance's third reading and related resolutions. Item 6A is Annexation 20004, application of Hampton Enterprises, Inc. to annex approximately 14.7 acres in adjacent right-of-ways on property generally located at South 70th Street and Yankee Hill Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6B is approving an annexation agreement for Harvest Hills between City and Hampton Enterprises, Inc. for the annexation of property generally located at South 70th Street and Yankee Hill Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6C is change of zone 20005, application of Hampton Enterprises, Inc. for a change from AG Agriculture District to B2 Planned Neighborhood Business District on property generally located at South 70th Street and Yankee Hill Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6D is use permit 20003, application of Hampton Enterprises, Inc. to allow up to 120,000 square feet of commercial floor area and up to 120 multifamily dwellings within the B2 Planned Neighborhood Business District, with waivers to allow shared parking, adjust the parking rate to one space per 300 square feet of floor area for all commercial uses, adjust setbacks, allow light trespass across lot lines, and allow sanitary sewer to flow opposite street grade on property generally located at South 70th Street and Yankee Hill Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments? I'll just make one that this is a good thing. We got somebody willing to spend a lot of money to create some new job place and new housing and new mixed use. So, and it's a good company in the Hampton company that's been here for many years. Okay, seeing nobody, please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6E is text amendment 20005, amending Chapter 27.56 of Capital Environs District of the Lincoln Municipal Code by amending Section 27.56.050, membership to add a fourth ex officio member to the Nebraska Capital Environs Commission and repealing Section 27.56.050 as hereto existing. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Shob. Any comments?
A friendly suggestion to the state of Nebraska that they call this the Bob Ripley seat.
Yeah, I was just the Bob. The Bob.
The Bob.
The Bob. Okay. Please call the roll.
Already taken, right?
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold. Yes. Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6F is amending Title 4 of the Lincoln Municipal Code to create a commission on the status of women and gender by adding Chapter 4.70 entitled Commission on Women and Gender to the Lincoln Municipal Code, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold.
This is a good thing.
Here, here.
You're here.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. That concludes our ordinance's third reading and related resolutions. Section 7 is resolutions first reading, items 7A and 7B. Ordinance's first reading and related resolutions are items 8A through 8J. And our pending list items are 9A through 9D.
Okay. To the public comment period of our, so anybody that would be wishing to come forward to speak can come forward. We'll have 5 minutes for each speaker, and we can speak on anything that's not on our agenda or planned to be on any future agenda. So if the first person would like to come forward.
Yep.
Jason Whitmer. All right, I want to talk about, the community's been having much conversation about Ander Christian, and how hilarious he was. And Anders spoke about Lincoln having the opportunity to lead the community, lead the country in social justice. And instead of talking about this critical time that we have when we're screaming and crying in the streets for social justice, he talked about boneless chicken wings. So I'm not here to talk about the boneless chicken wing man, but I am here to talk about leadership. And I want to know, where is our bipartisanship? Why is there a tower wall between politics and the people begging to be heard, to be seen, to be protected, to be respected, like the boneless chicken man and his family are protected and respected? Our nation has been going through an ongoing crisis, which I think nobody would deny. Something that's been going on, but something that's really come to the head now. And we seem to lack the definition of humanity, where we're classifying it on race, we're classifying it on gender, sexuality, politics. So let me present this in a hypothetical question, because I think this is where I want to really go to while I bring this up. When you look at historical atrocities, Nazi Germany, pre-Civil War America, the person you are today, if you was in that time, would you be someone who opposed this or someone who condoned this, even through your silence? I think that's the question we need to ask with what's going on now, because we're having politics, we're having humor, we're having hate in the streets, especially against our Lincoln protesters are a bunch of young kids, and we're spreading hate how they're just rioters and evil, and there's far less violence happening from those who are really being community leaders. It's like we're not getting it. What about the persecution of Jesus? So if we really look in Jesus, whether you believe he's a God, a man, or just a symbolic story, if you really look at Jesus, he was a protester, he was an instigator, he was a rebel, a revolutionary, and the system had a problem with him. And the system, who looked at law, order, and status, maintaining a status over human beings, condemned him and killed him. And I feel like that's what's happening now. And so as leaders, if I was to give you a case here in Nebraska, right here in Nebraska, of a 17-year-old boy convicted of murder that he was innocent of, I would want to know, is your voice going to be heard on this? If I said Ernest Jackson, if I said we have a 17-year-old boy, Ernest Jackson, convicted of murder in Omaha, Nebraska, after his trial, a second person goes to trial, confesses to shooting and killing the other young man, because this is a tragedy, confesses to who's with him, who is not Ernest Jackson, which he was asked specifically about since they already convicted this young man as being an accessory, which in Nebraska means you're convicted just as if first degree, of being accessory. He said he wasn't there. But the biggest point is, the jury heard all this evidence, heard this man's confession, had the evidence before them, and acquitted this man of self-defense. They acquitted the confessed shooter of self-defense. 20 years later, Ernest Jackson's still in prison for being accessory to a crime that's not a crime. He was better off standing right next to that man instead of telling that he was at his aunt's and his cousin's playing video games, which his family attested to, which the shooter confessed that he wasn't there. He was better off standing next to the man that got acquitted because he wouldn't be in there. He would have lived his life.
1 minute.
So my question is, everybody, I don't care what your powers are, where is it that the leadership says, like, we can't have this? We have somebody in prison for a crime that's not even a crime. And we're bickering because we're upset a bunch of children out in the street trying to raise awareness of what we've been ignoring for decades, for centuries. What we're still seeing, what's escalating, because some groups are getting protected for doing the shit we're talking about. Where is the justice system if we got full evidence in front of us, Ernest Jackson, that this isn't right, this isn't just, this isn't justice, and this definitely is inhumane. His name is Ernest Jackson. He's in our prison system. Do the research, prove me wrong, or please, that's what we're begging to step up. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Who would like to speak next?
Hi there. My name is Ozzy, and I don't feel comfortable giving out my address. I wanted to commend the brother who just spoke. It was very powerful, and you could obviously tell that he was getting emotional, which a lot of us feel, especially speaking on this podium, which I will say is continuously inaccessible for a lot of people, and I am surprised that Zoom meetings are off the board, seeing as that we are still in a pandemic and we are still wearing these masks. I just wanted to play something too here real quick that I don't really believe too much in a God or any sort of higher power, but it is strange when little things find you, and something found one of my friends, and she shared it with me, and she can't be here tonight, so I'm proud to also share it with all of you because I feel like it's a very, or could be a very monumental thing that Nebraska is known for and was viral for, which the brother who spoke previously had touched down on. So just get this pulled up. And this is only about a minute and a half, so don't worry, it's not too long.
There's guys that are serious and there's guys that aren't so serious. What I want to talk about today is a serious problem that we've been dealing with for a long time in this country, and I don't think that people address it enough. We've been casually ignoring the problem. It's gotten so out of control that our children are casually throwing around names and words without even understanding their true meaning. I go into nice family restaurants and I see people throwing this name around and pretending
Mr. Christensen, you might want to listen.
What I'm talking about is boneless chicken wings. I propose that as a country we remove the name boneless wings from our menus and from our hearts. Boneless chicken wings don't actually come from...
I think this might sound familiar to some of us.
They don't come from chicken's wings. They're not remotely similar to their wing brethren. Boneless wings are just chicken tenders, which are already boneless. We need to raise our children better. I don't want my kids growing up in America...
He doesn't want his kids growing up in America where they are calling things the wrong names.
Children need to know where their chicken wings come from, and they come from bones. They grow on bones. Meat grows on bones, and nobody's talking about this. Buffalo-style chicken tenders, wet tenders, saucy nugs, and finally,
Saucy nugs.
trash. Those are names that I recommend for boneless wings. Thank you for your time.
So that was at a Proud Boys and alt-right march 2 days ago in Portland, Oregon. And the person speaking, who I wanted to at least cut out him saying his name because I don't want to give him that opportunity, is Rex Fergus, who is a self-proclaimed president of all Proud Boys. You can find it on the multiple live streams that happened that day. I can also provide that as I have it uploaded, saved on multiple accounts. I just want to know how far we're willing to go to let this slide. An evident, underlying, but everybody knows that white supremacists are here, that they are enabling themselves through classic indoctrination and propaganda techniques. Why would you call Black Lives Matter when you could teach the same lesson when it's chicken nuggets versus boneless wings? I don't want my kids calling boneless wings boneless wings. I don't want my kids calling Black Lives Matter because it's not what it is to me. It is to me, but that's not what they're saying. What it is to them is that it's an attack on white supremacy. So a classic, true through the testament of time tactic is to disguise your message to a younger audience. What better way than, it's a pretty funny little classic viral clip. Nebraska was trending. A lot of people are talking about it. I'm sure also Christensen, who is very reluctant to, I guess, look at me or, oh, hey, there it is, up for a little bit. Advocating for, this signal boost that this person, his son, received, which was interviews with sports influencers, Bo Pelini, multiple online comedians and B-rated comedy whatevers giving him endorsements, and also a marketing campaign and money system that he was able to create, and a brand that he was also to create that is still up under Saucy Nugs for President and is still recouping money. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you all for your time. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight?
One of you get up.
So one of you decide.
Hi, my name is Nick Hernandez, 1107 L Street, apartment 10. I watched the video earlier today with John Powell, and he mentioned a targeted universalism, to have like a goal and like multiple pathways to get there. And Lincoln has some interesting history. So the first positive psychology conference that ever took place in the world took place here in 1999 in Lincoln. So what's positive psychology? It's the study of human flourishing. It's like positive mental health. So if you think about well-being as like physical well-being and mental well-being, it's like the mental well-being component of it, which is something that is researched fairly extensively by professors here at UNL. But what I wanted to suggest was the creation of something like a Lincoln Forum on Human Flourishing, sort of inspired by what I heard today. So like myself, I started the Havelock Neighborhood Association in 2007, sort of from excitement about hearing about positive psychology. And then I've been real active in the community, and I'm really nervous right now. I don't know why. I'm real sorry about that. But I like so excited that I put on a conference on positive psychology in 2014 through the Center for Civic Engagement at UNL. And there's a economics alliance, the Wellbeing Alliance. They have a group of, right now it's Costa Rica, Wales, Iceland, and Scotland that have said, let's have well-being be the central focus of policymaking and what we're about. And so I would propose maybe Lincoln join that, the Wellbeing Economy Government's Policy Lab, perhaps. And the sort of one of the, usually when you start talking about well-being, people think mental illness. And it's been proposed that you can look at mental illness as sort of one dimension, and then mental health is a separate dimension. And so it's the focus is on mental health as it's broken down into social well-being, emotional well-being, and psychological well-being. So the mental states for the psychological well-being, it's the flow state and a sense of meaning and purpose. And there's a study that was done in, I believe, 2009 by the Knight Foundation. Gallup did the research on it, and they called it Soul of the Community. What they looked at was, it was basically the question, what makes, for people who love their communities, why do they love their communities? And it was, I think 12 or so factors, and they studied it in 26 cities across the country. And it was the perception of social offerings, openness, which they defined as the degree to which the community was welcoming to everyone who's there, and aesthetics, the natural and created beauty. Those three factors were the top that accounted for why people love where they live. So I thought it's there's already so much here in the community that's addressing all these things, but it would be something sort of maybe putting metrics to it, perhaps, for looking at the human flourishing in terms of positive mental health and those three components.
1 minute.
I think Gallup has said we came out on top in terms of comparison with U.S. cities in 2012 for well-being. So it's we're already doing a pretty good job. And so I'd move maybe that we create something that where we do have conversation about it on a consistent basis. So maybe something like the Lincoln Forum on Human Flourishing, and I've got a project called Positivity Matters, and I'd love to be a part of something like that, but I just wanted to put the idea out there into the world, so that's all I have. Thanks.
Great.
I guess any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I like the
Thank you
idea
for
of,
coming down.
I like the idea of turning positivity, the word, into something besides our infection rate.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Okay, who else would like to come forward?
Good evening. First of all, thank you so much for your civic engagement, your duty during an extraordinarily, just an epic, difficult time. And so I'm sure you don't hear thanks enough. I'm sure you get a lot of complaint. So I wanted to start that way.
Can we get your name?
You bet. It's Dr. Sarah Son Thomas. And I come to you, I'm a co-founder of a grassroots nonprofit focusing on human rights, supporting human rights in Nebraska, called Stand In for Nebraska. And I've also been an educator for about 30 years, about 20 in the high school English classroom and about 10 at UNL. And I'm so proud. I've got a lot of students now in the classroom, and that's also a driver for my being here, because I feel very protective of them as they're in their early careers and they're trying to navigate teaching in a pandemic. So as their advocate, I am here, but I wanted to start with concerns about about cruelty. For 2 weeks now, Stand In for Nebraska has been steadfast in advancing a campaign to demand food assistance now for those who qualify for the federal monies that have been granted all the states and for our SNAP families and individuals. And I am, I have my educator hat on as well with that, because we know that roughly half of our families in the Lincoln Public Schools alone qualify for food assistance. And having been a teacher where my students have come to school hungry, it is about the most unnecessary and heartbreaking thing to see on a daily basis. So I can say from a very proximate perspective that, and I know our governor doesn't have a proximate perspective, and that's very sad. That's very sad to me, and it's become quite cruel, because we know that he is the only governor in the United States to deny giving these federal monies to those who qualify. And what that means is that families could use up to $250 during a pandemic for food support. And in fact, Nebraska families are getting $11. And so it's catastrophic. It's catastrophic. And so as a co-leader in a human rights organization, again, and as an educator, but more specifically right now, I'm on sabbatical and I'm seeing firsthand what this means. And it's ugly. And it's cruel. And I don't know how people go to church knowing this is true. I don't know how people sleep. I'm not sleeping well. So I wanted to say that we are living in a state of cruelty in this regard. And where is the push? I am encouraged that senators, led by Senator McCollister, the bravery, his moral courage is tremendous. He and I think 19 senators are pushing back. We know that the Lincoln Journal-Star published an article where the governor is digging his heels in, with no good reason other than just, well, Nebraska has the lowest unemployment rate, or one of them, 4%. That's missing the point. It's missing the point. And so I want a lot. You have power. I want to invite you to really push on that. I'm also really concerned about essential workers. I've done a lot of work statewide on advocating for meatpacking plant workers. I am similarly and differently concerned about educators. They are being demanded to work double. I mean, it's insane, the hours they're working just to make this work, and this is not part of their contract. And so I feel that educators are being exploited asked to do double the job with no extra pay and an extreme risk to their health. Now that we're apparently thinking that as we're going red, it's a good idea to fill our high schools that are like little cities with people after October 19th. Doesn't seem like wise leadership to me. And again, I just feel a real moral and professional obligation to be an advocate for things that seem like no-brainers, but apparently that's not that logic. I don't know, things are very illogical to me right now as far as human rights go. So thank you for pushing for human rights.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Trevor Riley, TrevorReilly, and I have just one request for the City Council tonight, but I have to address a little bit of context to it first. For those of us following the recent ballot initiative for medical marijuana, there's a lot of disappointment when the Nebraska Supreme Court struck it down for log rolling. I think it's silly, though, because I have no idea how somebody can have access to a product without guaranteeing the supply chain for it. Still, it's unfortunate that the language, which fit the necessary legalese, was deemed to contain more than one subject from the cannabis in question, but it's good to see that the coalition around the first initiative has already refiled a single sentence question, and I will plan on supporting that as well. However, I also have disappointment connected to the recent tragic death of Breonna Taylor. As more facts have come out from the grand jury this past week, it seems that the officers in Kentucky and actually the whole criminal justice system is just kind of getting away with something. If we're consistent and we're nuanced, it's not precisely the legal definition of murder. The police officers were lawfully raiding the house that night for drugs. I don't know which drugs, but drugs. And Kenneth Walker, in my opinion, rightfully fired at what he insists he perceived as violent intruders, as no doubt many of us would treat anybody else who breaks down the door just before midnight. But the point is when she was killed, when the officers returned fire at Walker. So perhaps the right way to put it is that she was accidentally killed, which is something more accurately charged as manslaughter. But ultimately, the state gets away with it. The taxpayers don't, because a $12 million settlement out of their pockets is supposedly going to establish justice. But at the core of the issue, at the core of the Breonna Taylor case, and here within Nebraska and our Supreme Court, the war on drugs continues to do little more than turn innocent and otherwise peaceful people into victims and criminals. So it'll be another 2 years before we get the chance to vote on the next cannabis initiative. It probably will have signatures. It probably will pass when it gets on the ballot. But we can easily do our part here today to establish higher standards of justice right now. I'm not the only person who believes that we could begin by reforming our city charter to ensure that we aren't a part of the problem of over-policing victimless crimes. So I would propose that we strike City Charter Section 9.48.090, which is possession of marijuana, and as well as 9.48.130 for paraphernalia. Now, for everyone listening, I hope my message isn't being misinterpreted. I am not encouraging wanton drug use or for our youth to have easy access to Delta-9 THC. But we have to admit that prohibition hasn't worked, and it has absolutely corrupted the purpose of our criminal justice system. I think we should even question signing warrants for raids, because it was earlier this year that the City Council had to pay a $1,000 claim after officers knocked down the right door with the wrong warrant. I think there's other evidence that prohibition encourages more violence than civility, and I think we have teens robbing each other for pot in the city. There's other violent robberies based on the cash-based nature of black market businesses. In Lincoln, there was a double killing in July of this year, and a robbery went wrong in July of 2018. These victims, Audrey Craig, Marte Green, Jessica Brandon, and Breonna Taylor, are not even a fraction of the victims resulting from America's federal policy decisions. However, I do hope that you can consider the small effect that you might have if you take the target off of one person's back and remove the burden from law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. The city charter, the second one was 9.48.130. What was the first one you said?
First one was 9.48.090, and I didn't write it down specifically, but there is a discrepancy in the language. Hemp is now in like kind of a limbo stage where it's cannabis, but it's not cannabis. The Latin designation of the plant is cannabis, but it's not psychoactive when you farm it for CBD or for grain or for pulp from the stalk. You can have bi-harvest, tri-harvest hemp, and it's technically not marijuana because we don't associate it with a THC. But it's the same thing as onions. It's white onions and sweet onions. Maybe some people like onions that really make them cry, and some people don't. So we should just regulate the plant the same way we do onions and corn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Good evening. My name is Carol Flora. I'm an educator of 14 years through Lincoln Public Schools. I was a paraeducator, a special education teacher, and now a social studies teacher. I'm also a graduate student of Doane University, where I'm working on my superintendent endorsement, graduating in December. I'm a mother to 3 sons, all school age, elementary school and middle school. We are doing remote learning, but constantly going back and forth, deciding on whether my children would go back to school or continue remote learning. Daycare closed because the child care provider has underlying health issues and has made the decision to stay at home with her children. The pandemic, like any family, it has its impacts, where we've had to hire a nanny, a college student who's taking a year off herself to save up money. We're all in this together, figuring out different ways that we can cope. Society, government, at any level, it's asking a lot of its citizenry, of educators like Dr. Thomas described. It is taking a toll. I've gone to school board meetings and expressed the emotional, the physical, the health toll that it is taking on educators at all levels. And so I am here today to also address the need for the city to also take a leadership role in addressing the concerns that Dr. Thomas was describing and what I'm describing as well. The food program that she is talking about, I'm also a co-founder of Stand In for Nebraska, and we've been working on this food assistance program for the last couple weeks in connection to Governor Ricketts denying congressional dollars to those recipients. And yeah, we are at 51% or higher students that receive where they receive free or reduced lunch and would be recipients of such a program. It is important that we, all of us at any level, do take this issue up and address food as a fundamental need, a human right for our health. It's such a requirement for students and their families to receive this aid that has been it's been cruel. It is there. Every governor in every state has taken it, Republican and Democrats. So it paints a picture of the leadership in our state. And I've seen on social media where folks are aligning the governor to setting himself up to running for something in Washington, D.C. And it seems like that he's making policies that benefit the 1%, the corporations, making it a very business-friendly state, which I am supportive of entrepreneurship, small businesses. But when we're talking about billion-dollar corporations that are profiting off of living here in businesses in Nebraska where meat packers are impacted, where we've had the largest hotspots in Nebraska. In my geography class, we've been following COVID worldwide and making thematic maps. And it seems like we are unaware that our state has doubled in total cases from like 22,000 in late August to 44,000 in currently here in September, going into October. So the numbers are going up. It's prevalent in the New York Times. We are one of the states that are greatly increasing, and yet we are opening up schools. Businesses are operating normal, as normal, and it's not. It's bizarre to me just how the machines keep running and people are losing their lives. It's just bizarre to me. So anyways, I'm here to ask for your support for all workers, whether they're meatpacking workers, educators. We need your support. We need you to talk to other levels of power and really work for the city of Lincoln. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michelle Clifford. I was really intrigued by the idea of Lincoln measuring its progress on the positivity of the city. I think that's a really lovely proposal, and it just got me thinking about how it is not a positive city right now. We have a lot of really big problems. And a lot of people have already addressed some of the things that have been weighing on me that I'm sure have been weighing on you as well. And I'm just here because I have thought so far that our city council is pretty wonderful people, and I've been impressed with the fact that this is a group of people who actually appear to be listening. And so I guess my hope is that you can use that influence to talk to the other powers that are higher up on our chain, because we're not doing okay right now. And there are kids in the streets just asking for their equality practically every single night. We're not changing anything about our police department. We're not doing anything sensible in regards to the pandemic. I am also a teacher, and it is weighing on us. I'm sure that you can tell that. And the food insecurity that's already been talked about is a huge concern. We have kids coming to school hungry all the time, and so much of what is a challenge with teaching kids can be resolved just by feeding them. It's ridiculous to me that the failures of the city consistently land on the shoulders of teachers. There are teachers who have cupboards in their room that are stocked with food and tampons and bandages and basic first aid and toiletry supplies so that kids can have access to those materials. there is constantly a flow of emails saying, hey, can you help? We need a bed for this family. We need to find some housing for this family. We need to find a crib for this baby who's going to have their own baby. These things happen, and we take it upon ourselves to try to fix it, and it should not be that way. It is already too much. And to add on to it just the insult to injury, to deny aid that is already being offered, it does not make any sense. And I clearly came up here with nothing planned to say, and I hope that's okay. I did not write my name down coming inside. I wasn't planning to speak. People are begging for help, and they need it, and they need people to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Next up.
Good evening, everyone. Haven't seen all these beautiful faces in a while. For starters, good evening again. My name is Dominique, and I am a local organizer here in Lincoln. For starters, I would like to say that I've been utterly disgusted with things that have been happening, not just in Lincoln, but online as well. I wasn't here the day that the boneless wings thing went viral, whatever. But the fact that it got more attention, more credibility, more funding, everything in between, then all of the work that we've been doing here in Lincoln is absurd. And then for it to not just go national, but for Proud Boys, racists, people that we fight against every day, putting our lives at risk, for them to use that same speech to push their racist propaganda is everything that I am against. And it started right here in this same room, right where I'm standing. I am utterly sick and tired of politicians in Lincoln, senators, mayors, councilmen, police officers, chiefs, always saying that they are trying to do the best to protect and serve and be a part of this community and work hard with us, but yet they don't show up to our rallies. They don't show up to our protests. They don't share information on how to be registered voters. I follow all of you on social media. I just hope you know that. The fact that we're still out here fighting this fight. We're still out here asking for equal justice. And I'll just start by reading a little something that maybe you all might have not heard of, maybe you're familiar with. I'm not gonna read the boneless nugs thing either. This comes from someone running for president, by the way, Saucy Nugs for President. This is an interview that he's done from his so-called critical acclaimed work that he's been doing here. When asked, why were you prompted to speak at this city council meeting? Well, to be honest, I found that there is so much conflict in the world right now. There's just so much noise. Like if you don't stand up for something, then you're being silenced and you're basically saying that you're sitting for this thing. I also realized that I'm passionate about something. I cannot be silent about it. And based on the reaction, clearly I am not alone. This is not a response to Breonna Taylor's murder. This is not a response to Jake Gardner not being arrested. This is a response to someone who wants to talk about Saucy Nugs and say that he has a stance on something important when our lives are still out here on the line. And it's more important than some wings that don't have bones, which if you're a big enough adult, you should be eating wings with bones. That's just point blank. When asked, do you think the council members were receptive? You know, they actually may have been doing a fairly good job. They're politicians. They're good at putting on a face, but it seems like they may actually reach out to me now. I'm excited. I've talked to almost each and every one of you individually. And if that is something that you are doing, you are giving this man the time and attention of day when we have been coming here all summer and soon to be all fall. That is beyond me. And that is beyond everyone in this city. And that is morally just wrong. Because we have been asking for months for our people that we elect, and we pay with our taxes to join our sides and fight with us for equality and justice. But we have a man here again who's talking about boneless nugs, and he's saying he's getting a response from you all. And I'm not going to point anyone out here because I know that they have direct contact, but it's a simple fact that he was given that platform in that time of day. When asked, why do you think some people don't like your statements? You know, I think that they were expecting something different. Once I got into the meat and potatoes, if you will, they realized it was not a laughing matter, and they were able to go on with serious business. I think the unexpectedness of it was what triggered that. Again, not a laughing matter. What's not a laughing matter? Boneless nugs? I think it's a laughing matter. But black people dying in the streets, domestic violence and sexual assault having a 12% increase since the start of COVID, and yet our police are not defunded? Our police are out here harassing us as of today. Me getting phone calls from police officers that I told them I don't want to speak with them. Why are we still fighting this fight? And why is a man with boneless nugs now being the foreface of a Proud Boys movement? That's all I have to say. As city councilors, we expect a lot of support from you all. Since the beginning of summer, you said you would support all of us. And yet again, we're being diminished, and our movement is being made lesser than some boneless wings. Our lives are bigger than boneless wings, and I want you all to take that with you. And again, I shouldn't have to come back here in a cow suit, because this is disgusting.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak?
Hello, my name is Jazari Qual. I didn't sign up to speak. I'm not going to give my address because I've gotten enough death threats this summer. So I wanted to come up here and just talk about the whole mask ordinance and everything that's going on. One of my followers on social media reached out to me saying that he's tired of going to different places and people not following the mask mandate, specifically Taco Bell. People not washing their hands, people not wearing their masks, people not doing things that they should be doing. I went out and covered things that had happened at Madsen's, and I'm just tired of all of this being made as a joke. I'm tired of educators having to fear going to school, having to fear getting sick. All these high schoolers are gonna have to go back to school second quarter full time. People are still thinking this mask mandate is a joke and it's not really being enforced. And one thing specifically that is annoying me is that an inmate just died in prison. There is no way that COVID can get into the prison system unless it's being brought in by the people who work there. I don't know who you guys need to call, who you need to talk to, but it's not that hard to reach who you need to take this very seriously, because people in prison are being treated like rats right now. They're catching COVID. They can't see their families. And they're dying, and they're getting sick and dying. I don't know about you guys, but I've been following all of these groups all summer and seeing these kids out in the streets marching, exercising their First Amendment rights, and being made fun of and being made out to be a joke when they are fighting for justice and equality, and them not getting the support that they need. It's upsetting to see that Lincoln is supposed to be a place where everybody stands together, but I've seen the city more divided the entire time that I've lived here over this summer, and it is very, very disheartening to see that the mayor comes out, gets in my live stream, says that she hears, she understands, she knows what the people wants, and then goes ahead and hires 4 more officers, or 5 more, whatever she did that obviously got city council's approval to accept the grant from the Department of Justice. And just the police force and things like that, saying everybody wants to work, everybody wants to be on the same page, but there's no support. Nobody's making any noise on social media, nobody's really talking about it. Nobody's showing up to these events, nobody's speaking, nobody's encouraging these young kids, because at the end of the day, nobody wants Lincoln to fail. And when you have these young leaders rising up and are fighting the good fight, it's important to support them and back them, because they're the ones that are going to be leading this city one day, or they can just say, screw it, I'm leaving, and give up on this country altogether and go somewhere else. And I'm sure nobody wants that. Everybody wants our city to be great. Everybody wants us to be united instead of divided. So please do what you need to do to support these people that are fighting for equality and justice. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others that'd like to come speak? Okay. Seeing none. We have one? Okay. I don't know if there's anybody else back there. Do you know? Okay.
Hello, my name is Serena Freet. First, I would like to ask for a Zoom comment to be restored. I think that's really important, especially with the rising cases of COVID. It makes these meetings more accessible for folks. I also would maybe suggest doing one virtual comment, one in person, alternating them back and forth. That way, folks that are paying attention online aren't always left towards the end. In addition to that, it's been 120 days since the resurgence of the movement for Black Lives. What have you done? We've seen prioritized funding for Lincoln Police Department, increase in their annual salaries, money for body cams, and approval of the COPS grant after asked for it not to be accepted. One thing that I will say is I appreciate the resolution that was passed a couple weeks back in support of Dreamers. I think that's really important. But also, there's no protection from law enforcement in that. It would be very easy for us as a community to not have our law enforcement work with ICE and Custom Control Border. I ask that you think about that. Other comments that have been brought up today have talked about how much our community is hurting, how much the pandemic has brought forward economic inequality, racial inequality, and who is being left behind in our community, who's not being prioritized, who's not being heard, who's not being cared for. There are some very easy things that we can do to care for people. That includes feeding them. That includes access to housing, free access to affordable housing. And one question that I think we all should be asking ourselves is, after the CDC's moratorium on eviction ends, what happens to the renters? Who's going to cover the back rent that's owed? And what we're seeing is that in December, it'll be 6 months worth of rent that is going to be due all up front. Where is that money going to come from? Who's going to be able to pay for that? When we talk about the rise of domestic assault and domestic violence in our community, an easy solution to this problem is offering housing to people. People are stuck in situations because they don't have access to housing. They don't have a safe place to go. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. We can fix this. We can support our community. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Do we have others that would like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Destiny Pelk. I'm from Lincoln. Normally I just email you guys, but I decided to come down here today. Recently, the council passed a ban on signs, which I believe others have spoken to. It was said that the signs being held up were distracting for people, or you guys listening to those that are up here speaking to you. While that may be true, I challenge you to think that maybe instead of a distraction, that it's more of a personal problem for some of you. If you see signs that say Black Lives Matter or Halt the Budget or shirts about police brutality that's happened in Lincoln and it's drawing your attention from the speaker, maybe you need to address these issues. If people in this community, the ones you serve, have repeatedly come down here and have asked you for less policing, more community programs, better equity in our education, safety and resources for the Black community, amongst so much more lacking right now in our community and our state, maybe you need to address them. Sorry, I'm nervous. And if that makes you uncomfortable, because the signs remind you of the people that you have been leaving behind, or reminds you of the decisions collectively that you have agreed to make, those decisions that have purposely and quietly continued to oppress a majority of the people in your communities, and silence instead of helping those that really, really need it. Maybe as a council, you need to do better. I understand it's inconvenient and it's uncomfortable to think outside your neighborhoods you live in and the views of Lincoln that you may carry because of your position in this community. But if you don't want to see these signs or chanting, then maybe take care of the illness. These things are symptoms of problems that you help create and perpetuate by your decisions in Lincoln and your communities. Listen to these issues, recognize them, and make effective change towards these ideas given to you by people in these communities. I implore you to reevaluate what's truly a distraction and what's more uncomfortable for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. So I am here this evening to talk about an issue that I think is a very, very important issue. You know, it's something that impacts not just people like me, but also people not like me. It's a problem that we have to fix because, you know, things just keep getting pervasively worse within this country. The issue I'm here to talk about is police brutality. Sorry. The issue I'm here to talk about is eggplants. I think that the name that we have given eggplants is not a good name for exactly what it is. At the end of the day, an eggplant, it's actually not a plant. It's the fruit of a plant, and believe it or not, eggplants are a fruit. They're from the berry family, and they're related to potatoes and tomatoes. And so when we talk about eggplants, I think it's really bizarre that we're so comfortable with using the word plant when it's not a plant, it's the product of a plant. You know, how can an eggplant be a plant when it grows on a plant? You know, if my dad was trying to start a business where he sold the fruit of eggplants, right? And my mom had a garden, and in her garden, he wanted to find a spot to put his eggplant. And she was like, well, Kieran, what's his plan? You know, would I say his plan is transplant this plant to plant his eggplant eggplant plant? No, that doesn't make sense. That's too confusing. We need to change the word, you know? When I talk about eggplants, I don't use them to refer to something that looks like an egg, you know? What do I use it to refer to, you know? The eggplant emoji, what do we use it? Usually something like an eggplant parmesan, right? Something that we're eating, you know? Not something that's egg-shaped, not something that's plant-shaped. I mean, and let's talk about the color of them. You know, I know that the term eggplant actually originated because the original thing that we refer to as eggplants was actually white. You know, the white cultivar does kind of look like an egg, you know, but the eggplant that I know, the eggplant that I know and love, it does not look like an egg, you know? So let's change the name, you know? They're a berry. Let's call them wiener berries, right? You know, okay, how about this? In England, they call it, when you eat an eggplant in England, they call it an aubergine. You know, when my mom eats an eggplant, she calls an ambulance because she's allergic to eggplants, okay? So, like, let's change the name. Let's not stick with what we're doing, you know? And, you know, I'll just address the elephant in the room. This is directly combating the whole wing thing, and so I'll weigh in on the wing debate, you know? I, for one, don't like any wings. It doesn't matter to me if they're boneless wings. It doesn't matter to me if they're saucy nugs, trash, whatever you want to call them. I just don't like wings. You know, in my opinion, all wings are bad, you know, because all wings are chunks of bird, and I don't want to eat bird chunks, you know. The system that creates wings is inherently a flawed system, and so even the best wing is still a bad wing. You know what I mean? All wings are bad, right? You know, and I'll jump to vegetables too, you know. I personally am a huge fan of artichokes. I think they're an underrated vegetable. I don't think they often get the respect that they deserve. You know, artichokes are very good. And I would even say that, you know, artichokes matter to me. And when I say that artichokes matter, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying that all other vegetables don't matter. You know, I'm simply saying that artichokes matter, okay? I just don't want to get people confused, you know. These are tough times. People are always looking for something to be upset about. But yeah, so in conclusion, you know, all wings are bad. Artichokes matter. Let's change the name of eggplants. And then to go off of that, I just want to point out, you know, there was a statement that was made at a past city council meeting. You know, it was from one of our council members' children that I do not think respects the decorum of this space. And I know that at that same meeting, we passed a bill taking away First Amendment rights from people who come here to speak because we wanted to uphold decorum in this space. You know, and so I question you all. Do you think that this is an appropriate way for us to conduct ourselves? Do you think these are truly the issues that we need to be fighting towards? At the end of the day, it's been 120 days since this movement has kicked off. 120 days, and the only response I've seen from the people in this room that shows me that they've heard anything that has been said was when they told us that we were saying too much. When that sign bill was passed, or that sign ordinance was passed, that's the only response that I've seen directly related to these protests. I don't understand how you can think about that. Think about the way that you are exercising your power, conducting yourselves, doing your jobs, and be happy with that being your sole response. Do you think Lincoln is a safe space for people of color? Do you think Lincoln equally values all people? You know, do you think, did you see the white pickup truck driving around with "fuck you niggers" written on the back windshield? Was that appropriate? Is this a safe space for people, this city? It's not. And for you to absolutely do nothing in response to all that we've seen, it's hurtful. It really is. And so I implore you, I beg you, do something about this. And I shouldn't have to come up with these proposals because this isn't my job. You are the ones who are elected into these seats, correct? You're the ones who know more than we do. You're the ones who know how to help move this city, this country forward. And for you to just sit there and tell me, nothing needs to be done, you're denying all the evidence at hand. All wings are bad. Black Lives Matter.
Okay. Do we have anybody else in the chamber that'd like to come forward? Would you?
I don't know how I'm going to follow that up. My name is Caitlin. I'm from Lincoln. I didn't have anything prepared. I was watching this live stream at home. I'm so blown away by Councilman Christensen's son and the publicity that he's received for his stupid wing speech. Like everyone said, we've been out here talking about Black Lives Matter all summer, and it was a complete mockery of all of our efforts. Something you should not be proud of, Councilman Christensen. I'm going to read a quote from the Nebraska History Museum's website. Nebraskans are familiar with the Klan's horrendous acts of violence and bigotry, but many don't know that Klan members cloak their actions not only with white robes and masks, but also with patriotism. Nebraska Klan membership peaked at an astonishing 45,000 members in the mid-1920s. According to the Star Herald report on a Klan event in 1924, the lecture focused almost exclusively on Americanism and patriotism. Old Glory proudly floated from the flagstaff in the center, the stars and stripes waving brightly in the glaze of the spotlights from several cars closely packed, extending 2 miles along the highway, waiting to gain admission to the gathering. This bears a similarity to the white trucks, the Proud Boys that directly quoted his son as a way to diminish our movement and to mock it. 45,000 members 100 years ago don't just dissipate. They're in our city. They're not receiving the same type of, attention that our movement has. They're using the rhetoric of his son during their speeches, as Ozzy said earlier, and to not denounce that type of use of those words is a problem, and I don't want someone supporting Proud Boys or white supremacy sitting on a city council. I'll be really happy to see you off of the city council in 21 because we don't want that in our city. We need people that care about everyone. That's all I really have to say. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to come forward and speak tonight? Okay. Not seeing anybody.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington that we adjourn. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward? Yes. Bowers? Christensen?
Yes.
Raybold? Yes. Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes. We stand adjourned.